Welcome to UO Today. I'm Steve Shankman, Director of the Oregon Humanities Center. Our guest is Andrew Kirkpatrick, the Digital Projects Manager for Knight Library Media Services. He is also a video producer and director for Media Services. He came to Oregon for his undergraduate work and joined the staff in 1997. Andy Kirkpatrick has worked on several notable projects, producing the video and CD-ROM for a Spanish textbook, Entrevistas, an Introduction to Language and Culture, published in 2000. And he worked on the documentary Roll on Columbia, Woody Guthrie on the Bonneville Power Administration, aired nationally on public broadcasting systems. A large part of his work is focused on the development of visual teaching tools to improve education. He's also taught digital photography and audio classes through the University of Oregon library system, and we've worked together for many years, and it's great to have you on this side of the camera.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for being with us. Now, you did your undergraduate work in journalism.
Correct.
In the days when you were, was there such a thing as digital video in those days?
In the beginning, no, not at all. It was all tape-to-tape, analog. It was...
You wanted to say what analog is for our audience out there that might not know?
Analog is typically something you can touch.
Uh-huh.
And it's also something that we tend to think of in a linear fashion, where it's, you know, end to end. It's begins at the start and finishes at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas digital, we tend to think of as we can put it together in any string, non-linear. We can go back, revisit, rewind.
I see. So one is kind of point for point, and the other is just you kind of transfer the information into some other form, and then you can kind of do with it as you like.
That's one definition, yes.
Probably not a very good one. So in those days, what were you doing when you were studying journalism? Anything remotely like digital video?
Well, I was in the electronic media sequence, so it of course did have video as a few of the courses, and but of course we have all the other requirements for economics and social studies, sciences.
Right. But has the field really changed since you were taking your classes? I mean, with the digital, is it fair to say it's a revolution? The digital.
It is fair to say it's been a revolution in digital video, the same as it has been for desktop publishing. Back in those days when you walked into the office and you realized that someone just came into contact with Word or Microsoft products, and they would have, you know, a document presented in 20 different fonts. It was horrible, but it was their first introduction, and it's that way with digital video now, is that it's on everyone's desktop. It's readily available.
Now, since I so badly mauled what digital video was, maybe you could just let us know, like, why the word digital? I mean, how it actually works. I mean, for the layman. Well,
we typically think of digital video as being stored on a computer, or stored as binary, zeros and ones, ons and offs, in a computer. So it's something that has infinite possibilities as to how we rearrange it, and it's just like when we edit Word documents, we make the changes quickly, and it's the same speed with digital video.
So the stuff is actually in the computer. I mean, all the chips are doing whatever they do to keep, and the stuff is there, rather than on a tape or something like that.
It's still often the case that we're acquiring video on tape, just because it is the most cost-effective means for capturing, recording, and long-term archival storage.
What about resolution in digital as opposed to other means?
There's still the argument that film can be better than digital video because film is basically organic bits or organic pieces, so that they don't have blocky shapes. They're very flowing, irregular edges, and you can keep on zooming into that film and getting more resolution, and it's not harsh edges, where with video at a certain point when you zoom into it, focus in and magnify it, you're going to see those harsh blocks.
Mm-hmm. So if our viewers, well, if you had this episode of UO Today on videotape, and then you went into the computer and looked at it that way, would the viewers really see any difference? I get if they had a decent really good TV screen.
They might see a small difference if they went to the Humanities Center site and looked up the UO Today episodes. It's slightly less resolution or slightly less clarity than the VHS tape or the broadcast, but it's very viewable. Mm-hmm. And if someone's in a rush to look up their favorite poet or a guest lecture that came through the university, it is a very simple way for them to watch video without having to request a videotape or going to the library and checking out a DVD.
So you see this as the wave of the future, kind of no doubt about it.
Very much so. People are more prone to do what's easy, and video stores realize this, and they're getting on the bandwagon too as far as delivering videos to home rather than you going to the store to pick them up.
Mm-hmm. Now you've done quite a bit of work in the educational application of digital videos. You want to say something about the kind of things you've been working on?
I've been working on a lot of multimedia, especially digital video for the web, as far as testing for high schools and elementary schools. We did a large amount of accommodations for the state of Oregon, and that's the Department of Education, where it's basically not that a student has a disability per se, but they may have something that does not allow them to take the standardized state test. Mm-hmm. So if their primary language was Spanish, or if they were deaf, an accommodation is simply, giving them the test in their own fashion that they need, that is native to them. And so that's kind of what we focused on with accommodations. And then I've done a lot of video conferencing and video streaming in education, and DVDs are the hot new thing right now.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the testing. So in other words, somebody is is able then to take these tests in their own home or something like that. You mean if they don't have the mobility to go out somewhere?
With ours in particular, we looked at the time basis as far as did the student take a paper-based test that was in English, mm-hmm. or did they have the test verbally spoken to them via video in Spanish, their own language, and they were able to go self-paced with the video where they could stop it, rewind.
I see.
Again and again.
So is this taking the test or preparing for it?
And that was truly taking the test.
Uh-huh.
And
so how many clients do you have then in the testing area?
Many, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
I'm never quite certain who is
accessing.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. And again, tell us again. You spoke about students, and then did you talk about Spanish, or is this part of the same?
That's part of the same.
Yeah. And what other initiatives for the educational application?
We've been working a lot with video conferencing in particular. It's just an easy way to collaborate, to offer new ways of creating a product or collaborating for writing. The College of Education here has done a cohort in Anchorage, Alaska that is for administrative licensure and education leadership, and that's master's level and doctoral level. And it's very important to those people in Anchorage to be able to take the class, because Anchorage doesn't have the large reference library that the University of Oregon has, and they don't have the access to the professors, and it's very important for them to be able to eventually become administrators in their own schools, whether it's principals or vice principals.
But how does the digital particularly work, as opposed to, say, doing this through, you know, television or something like that? What's the exact digital component?
Most cases, the difference is simply cost.
And they're using their computers. Is that the idea?
It can be, indeed, and they can. With Alaska, we were actually working with video conferencing, so it's basically a set-top box with a camera, and both sides have one and work back and forth together. And
you were saying the cost. Before I interrupted you, the cost it's much more cost-effective to do it through the digital than through.
Right. With video conferencing, we're often working just with internet protocol, and it's basically the internet too that our telecommunications and network services department have, you know, strived so long to build up here on campus, and I think we've, you know, shown pretty well the uses for that, because it's basically no cost of connection for us between two universities. There's no phone costs whatsoever. It's simply the internet. It is quite large in comparison to modems. It's about the equivalent of 12 modems.
Now, tell me about what kind of projects you might want to do in the future in regard to the digital or other projects.
Probably as a documentary producer, I would be interested in probably doing a historical documentary on the 1939 Tall Firs, who were the only University of Oregon men's basketball team to win the NCAA tournament. And
the Tall Firs.
Correct.
That's what the mythology is. That's what they're called.
Correct, because I believe four of their starters were over 6 foot tall.
I see.
And we have some great material that we've gathered. Of course, we'd always be interested in finding more people that had firsthand recollections, and anybody that was perhaps there for the homecoming.
So that's documentary. What about in the digital? What about in the digital area and more educational innovations on the horizon or projects that you're going to be wanting to work on?
We're definitely looking more at streamlining the process as far as integrating digital video conferencing, and video over the web, so that if you missed a video conference or a class, you could immediately go to a website and look through the video and all of the images that are available, and it would be almost as good as being at the class. You might, of course, miss something, but and it certainly would never be used as a substitute for the class, as an equal substitute for the class, but it would be of good use to the students.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for sharing your very good work with us.
Thanks, Steve.
We've been speaking with Andy Kirkpatrick, the Digital Projects Manager for the Knight Library and Media Services. We'll be back with a look at the use of streaming video on campus at the University of Oregon, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Our next guest is J.D. Hauger, the streaming video developer for the University of Oregon. J.D. Hauger came to the university in April of 2005. He has designed the UO Channel, a searchable website containing video archives of university events and speakers. He is also the person behind the development of the online portfolio project for the School of Architecture and Allied Arts, as well as the university's streaming media department website. He is now working with the library to create a searchable database of audio files for teaching. J.D. Hauger has developed streaming video and archive projects for Pacific Lutheran University, and he is the web developer and owner of a company that administers websites and provides streaming video and webcasts of live events. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome to you all out there, especially if you're seeing this on streaming video. And in fact, our audience might like to know exactly what is streaming video, what does the word mean? Tell us something about the technology.
Sure. Streaming media defines a just-in-time delivery of media content, and can be audio or video, which is what I deal directly with at the University of Oregon. But
what do you mean, excuse me, just in time?
Right.
Say that.
What that means,
that for us.
Yeah, to rephrase a little bit, the media content is delivered as you watch it. So I guess thinking of it practically, you don't download the file. You don't actually store a copy on your computer, but it's delivered to you. Maybe a good analogy is like broadcast television. The signal is out there, you receive it, you watch it, and then it's gone, for all intents and purposes. And streaming media is like that in many ways.
But if, for example, people want to watch this show on streaming video, they go on their computers and they push certain buttons, and isn't that being stored somewhere? Isn't the streaming video being stored somewhere?
Technically speaking, it's stored in a cache, but it's not as if you would download the show and then be able to play it back locally from your computer. It's delivered from a specially configured web server to, I think, it was developed so that as network traffic becomes congested and the internet pipeline gets filled up, streaming can deliver what is essentially a large amount of, in the case of video, viewable data in a really efficient way as far as the internet's concerned.
So if there's a lot of traffic, it doesn't really get in the way if you're wanting to watch the material.
Under optimum configurations, that's correct, yeah. Or that's the idea.
So tell us about, it's been around, how long has it been around?
I would be hard-pressed to give you an exact date. Video on demand was first developed by a company in Hong Kong, but, at least 8 years, 9, 10. I think streaming media has been around in one form or another longer than a decade now.
And so what are the technical advances that led to this technological opportunity?
The advances?
Yeah. I mean, what did you need to do before that happened? Because it seems a lot more efficient, say, than than
mailing a DVD.
Mailing a DVD, than mailing a whatever, a videotape, that sort of thing.
Sure. Really, I think the technical advance that sort of bolstered in this streaming media technology was the proliferation of broadband. As soon as the internet kind of grew out of the modem, dial-up, and you could get decent speeds, that's when I think people really started thinking, we can deliver huge video files through this network. So in my opinion, really, the advancement that kind of brought on this age of streaming media was the proliferation of at-home broadband internet access.
Can you give a layman an idea of what the technology is and what it does and how it actually works, what you're looking at?
Sure. Yeah. For the layman, streaming media, let's use video as an example because I think it's kind of what's popular. The video is encoded in a really efficient way. So you take essentially a video feed and you turn it into as an efficient small file as possible. And there's a couple technologies that do that. You know, the popular ones are Windows Media and QuickTime and Real Player. Those are all proprietary technologies that apply a codec to the video, which it allows it to be sent efficiently through the internet. Just like you have MPEG and DVD and these various video formats, streaming media is a format. It's a way to store and compress the video that allows internet delivery.
Now, before the show, you mentioned to me that it was a very democratic kind of technology. You want to explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think that concept is what really got me interested in this technology. What I meant was with streaming media, with this delivery mechanism of sending these multimedia files over the internet, you're able to bypass what's been sort of this traditional structure of distribution, you know, and with video, it would be the television channels, the Motion Picture Association of America. You would need to go through certain distribution points to reach any kind of sizable audience. With the advent of the internet and streaming media, you're able to advance audio, video, whatever you may have, by merit, as opposed to, you know, payola or just going through certain distribution channels. And that sort of that idea that you can have this good thing that you want people to see and actually have them see it and reach a broad audience is very appealing to me.
Well, let me ask you, you know, with these other kinds of technologies, there was a profit motive behind it. You know, somebody has a TV show, they want to make money, and so at least part of their decision on what to air has to do with, I guess, how successful it's going to be in bringing in profits. So what keeps this thing going? I mean, what is the motive that keeps it alive and especially at the moment so popular?
Well, you know, I think profit is at play. You know, I think that...
how can you profit, though, from it?
From streaming media, generally speaking? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say that... well, let's look at what Google Video is doing right now. Google just recently entered into the whole streaming media fray with a new service called Google Video. And they allow you to distribute, you know, if you have a home movie of your baby and you want grandma to see it across the country, you can upload your video and grandma can log on and watch it. And the technology is getting easy enough to use that's actually happening on a pretty wide scale. But let's say you have a pilot documentary that you did for PBS. And it's not airing anymore, but you still want people to watch it, let's say, because you have a new season coming up. You're able to, you know, if you have a website, promote it, have people log on and watch it, and that way you can take assets that you already have and continue to distribute them, even though maybe it's not getting play on you know, whatever channel. The other thing is micropayments. Sticking with Google Video because they're so ubiquitous, I suppose. One of the things that they're doing in sort of a pilot kind of way is allowing people the day after an NBA game to pay, I think it's $3.99 or something like that, and go and watch that NBA game from the night before. And instead of, you know, normally I'd imagine with big time sports, you have a sponsor come in and pay, you know, so many hundreds of thousands of dollars to advertise on the show. Now the NBA can get a couple dollars from every viewer. It's in some ways sort of turning the whole profit from, you know, various video assets around. You know, so that's kind of exciting.
Let's turn now to the university and the university website. Tell us, which you've been helping out with, tell us about what kinds of programs people can watch on the university website.
And you're talking about the UO channel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the channel is it's essentially a web portal. It's a searchable database, if you will, of content from all over the university that media services films and the library distributes. And to answer the first part of your question, the kinds of things that are on the channel right now are things that the library and media services and various entities associated with the channel think are going to be of wide appeal to the general university, audience, students, staff, faculty, anybody associated with the university.
So if you give our audience, say, an idea of what they might find on there.
Sure, yeah, and you'll find everything from the university president talking about the current state of the university generally. You'll find
Is that the interview that we did here on UO Today?
It is the interview that you did.
Okay.
A few interviews from you, actually, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find, one thing that I think people are interested in and talk a lot about is media services had a documentary recruitment film from 1934. I think it's called Know Your Pacific Northwest Colleges, and this is, it's old. It's got this funny, just post-depression narration of things that are going on at the university in 1934, and we've taken this reel tape, this old video, and it looks like something that you'd watch in a talkie, post-depression era. Converted it to a streaming media format, and now people can log in and just watch it with a click of the mouse.
So tell our audience what they log on to get onto the site.
Sure, it's media.uoregon.edu.
Okay, media.uoregon.edu. Excellent. And then people can go in there and see what's there.
Exactly right.
Let me ask you, before we've got to close, about the audio project you're working on with the library.
Sure, and that's it's a pilot project. It's a University of Oregon library system. It's digital audio initiative. And we're looking at taking audio assets from the Douglas Listening Room, which is part of the Knight Library, and distributing those assets via Blackboard and other online web portals, so that students who have audio reserves or want to listen to, let's say, an LP, can do so from the dorms, from their home, anywhere with an internet connection. And the idea. There's a couple core concepts there, but mostly it's access, providing access to these things that you would normally have to come to the library, check out. Maybe somebody else is listening to it for their class.
Right.
Instead, you can listen to these audio reserves in the comfort of your own home or wherever.
Right. That's a great idea. If you're a student, it's absolutely fantastic, and you could have poets on there too.
Sure. Yeah. Anything.
Excellent. Well, thank you for letting us know about about all the interesting projects you're doing and the way you're helping us catapult the university into the 21st century.
No, it was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we've been speaking with J.D. Hauger, the streaming video developer for the University of Oregon. Thank you for watching.